Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to Monster Tamer Showcase, where we discuss and dissect new and upcoming monster taming titles. Today we're going to be discussing Mirrored Soul, an SMT-inspired title that, honestly, the stars kind of aligned for, because it's specifically inspired by a Shin Megami Tensei spinoff, being the 1997 Devil Summoner Soul Hackers title, which, if you don't already know, we recently got a sequel confirmation for earlier this week. That said, obviously this title, as I mentioned, is inspired by the first game, not the new direction, so if you are someone who was a fan of the original and wants to check out a game more in that vein, this is definitely going to be something you're going to want to take a look at. Anyways, all that said, make sure to sit back, relax, and let's check it out. Okay, so as per the usual, we're going to check out the Steam trailer, which works out very well because a brand new one just went live. I'll play it for you guys uninterrupted so you get a full scope of what the dev is presenting, and then we'll talk about the various features as outlined on the Steam page. Alright, I do want to say this really quick before we dive into the game's description. There is a demo available right now on Steam. It will be linked below, of course, so definitely feel free to check it out. It's always nice when these games have demos. Anyways, Mirrored Soul is a monster collecting RPG for people who are sick of monster collecting RPGs. A darkly funny mystery, part noir and part fantasy, Mirrored Soul takes heavily after the JRPGs of old. The story's stars out-of-practice detective Cecil and his mysterious feline sidekick Spot, named for his single unblinking eye. Traverse dimensions, recruit monsters, and shake them down for information. Take down the armies of the shadowy Mirror Lord, and maybe do some sleuthing here and there. So definitely an interesting premise we got here. The idea behind the phrase a monster collecting RPG for those sick of monster collecting RPGs, I think is a reference to the more Pokemon-esque games that we see, and as this is a more SMT-esque title. I love me some Pokemon likes, but I definitely gotta say it is refreshing to see a lot more Shin Megami Tensei inspired games as well. As for the story, it's definitely a unique title to say the least, and honestly pretty intriguing in my opinion. I like the mix there of the satire and dark humor and stuff like that, so definitely interesting. Next, we're going to be taking a look at the features present within the game. Of course, do note that the game is still earlier in development, so these features could be expanded upon and or potentially changed in the future. Here we got over 200 monsters to recruit to your party, challenging and engaging gameplay which requires strategy and team building, a monster fusion mechanic in which players can combine two of their creatures into a new one which will inherit the skills from each of their movesets, a pretty banging OST, many secrets to find off the beaten path, from rare monsters to side quests to bosses. Perhaps there's even something a bit more sinister lying deep within the mirror world. So right off the bat, fusion system definitely expected in this type of game, and I'm happy to see it here. I also really like the fact that the game is going to be more challenging, and a huge part for me is the optional content. I love the idea of having side quests and optional bosses that are an even greater challenge. I have no issues with more linear games. I've always said, not every game has to be open world, despite the fact that everybody wants every game to be open world. The idea of something being linear, not being as good as something non-linear, is something that I reject. Linearity itself is not a bad thing with these types of games, as long as there is an allowance for that off-the-beaten-path type exploration like we see here. Old school Pokemon are all relatively linear games, but you can do some badges out of order in some games, you can explore various routes that are optional, caves, stuff like that. Anyways, my point is I'm glad that something like that is happening here. But yeah, there's no huge wall of information like we'd see during one of our Kickstarter showcases, but I think that's actually a really good thing because the dev was really clear and concise about what the game's about, and what it'll entail, and I actually really appreciate that. We've got the story premise, the list of major features, and no unnecessary fluff. That said, like I said before, check out the Steam page, it will be linked below, and definitely feel free to check out that demo as well. Now, if you do want to stay up to date on the monster taming genre, or even just this game, definitely subscribe to the channel because I put out new monster taming videos every single day. You can also check me out on Twitter, Discord, and Patreon, all links below. Special thanks to my patrons, especially Dark Persona, Steel Case, and Jim Hamilton. And with all that, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.